All right, so we'll be live in like 15 seconds.
Straighten up, Chief. He's telling you.
I don't have to.
Everybody knows you, huh?
You want to run it?
What's that?
You want to run it?
Oh, I don't care.
He wants to. All right, we're live.
So I'll call this meeting to order as we have enough members for a quorum. And just jumping right into it, the first thing is our fiscal year 2025 year-to-date report of expenditures and revenues, which I believe is on the second page.
You want me to go look it up?
Sheila, yeah, if you'd like to take us through that.
So we're looking pretty good right now. The total budget for the use tax looks like it was 1.3 million, and our total, but we had only budgeted for use tax. So our use tax, we still have $322,981.06 to go to the end of the fiscal year. But we also have received $25,114.15 in interest income. And then that fund balance amount is just the cash that was carried over that hadn't been expended last year before the end of the year, and it just got carried over and reallocated this current year. And then you can see if you look down, so I'm looking at the second year-to-date column, and I looked at revenues over or under expenditures, the $685,059. So we have that much cash right now sitting in there, and we could go ahead and pay all of our expenditures at this point for the whole year with that cash. So everything that we are receiving for the rest of this year is going to be allocated towards future obligations that we have in future years, for grant matches that we're going to hear about very soon.
So technically, we're year-to-date, we're over budget wise with regards to revenues, like we're on pace for more revenue year-to-date than what we actually budgeted for.
We are, and there could always be timings. Use tax revenues sometimes, now because of online sales, it's more stable, but it's pretty lucrative because if you have projects or something like that going on, and people are doing a lot of ordering from out of state into state, like construction materials. For example, the school district is doing a lot of improvements right now, and if those materials and supplies are being ordered from out of state and they're paying use tax on those supplies, then it's going to increase our revenues quite a bit. But that's not ongoing where we would be able to count on that year after year.
Yeah.
So we received this monthly, right?
We receive it once a month, yes. And it's usually by the 7th day of each month.
So then that would bring us to our overview of fiscal year 2025 projects. Would you like to just lead us down that list?
I think I'm gonna let Eric talk about the park ones and Shelley talk about the sidewalk ones.
The whole park project design is presently ongoing right now. You can, the first one that says actual project cost to date, that is a typo error. So you could ignore that $68,323 figure. The budgeted projects are $1,004,000. The total design is $99,000 per the contract that was approved on November 4th of 2024 with Vireo. That was approved, and those anticipated costs are $99,000 per their contract. This is a 50-50 match with LWCF. We have received to date a $10,000 contribution, and the actual project costs as of right now are $5,107.15. Much of that was the cultural survey that we had done with Missouri State, and also like a banner that we had to purchase saying we are receiving federal matching dollars, which is up on the site at the present moment. And also the advertisement contributed to that amount as well for the Vireo when we did the request for proposals. So that's what we have for the actual project costs. Any questions on that?
Can you remind me again, that won't actually kick off until next fall, is that correct?
Well,
Or is it
actually, we are
2
in the
years?
process right now. We have a meeting with Vireo next week is our kickoff, because we've already sent them some information on the survey that was done. And so we're getting the timeline because we need to get a general contractor selected, and they'll take the lead on that with all the paperwork, the contract work. And then once we start doing that, we'll have to advertise. And with all the rules of LWCF, it has to be advertised for 3 weeks at least for a general contractor. And then the selection process, going over that's probably another 2 weeks before we do a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen, bring that to the Board of Aldermen. So there's a lot of steps. In fact, this grant is even more detailed than what the grant was at Lions Park. So, but we're kicking off everything this next week with Vireo.
Okay, so there's actually, sounds to me like, I just remember at the last meeting when we talked about it, there was, because the grant funds don't become available until like 2026, is that right? Or
We actually,
I'm just wondering if we're gonna break
right
ground
after-
like next year or.
right after we had our meeting, we actually were awarded the grant, but we couldn't accept any monies for reimbursement until the paperwork was signed by the Board of Aldermen. So, which it has. So I can tell you, we will have to do a reimbursement. It's another one of their stipulations that we have to have a reimbursement on certain different points, is what they say. Even if it's a small amount, they want to start paying money back to us. So that's where we're at.
When do you think construction is going to start?
I would hope to say mid to late summer.
Second July.
Yeah. So that's what we're anticipating. If everything goes smooth, do all the advertisement that is required, and all that good stuff. So
Do you have any idea an estimated date for completion?
Probably November.
November to December is what they thought a 6-month turnaround. They think they could have that done. So, if it's a 6-month deal, hopefully, not going wood. Any other questions on Hall Park? You want me to go right to number 2?
Sure.
The Lions Park playground resurfacing is complete up to about 99%. Lions Park, we have not completely accepted the workmanship. The installation is there. However, there is a seam about 2/3 of the way through it that we weren't happy with. We contacted the company, and due to closing out the books, I told them, hey, I haven't received any payment information, the certified payrolls, et cetera, et cetera. We received an email back from the owner of the company yesterday. He came up, looked at the seam, said it was unacceptable, And in the springtime, they are going to actually put another total full layer over the top of it as well to correct the seam. We just didn't feel comfortable with the amount of money that was, almost $96,000. It was unacceptable to both Ryan and myself, and they are coming out in the spring to rectify that situation. We can pay that at the conclusion that it is done, but we are going to be getting the payment information, the certified payrolls, the invoice on the Mac Porter Park portion, and that is acceptable. So we'll be making payment to them fairly soon as we get that information from them.
So we have not paid the 96,000.
We have not paid anything on either of the,
Gotcha, okay.
of the projects, because we haven't received any invoices except for Lions Park, and they said we could hold the check, and I contacted Sheila how we want to do this, and we can carry that money forward and then pay them once the project is complete. So that's what we're going to do.
Gain a little interest while we go.
I don't know if you've been over to see it or not, but it looks great. It's really nice and spongy, but we just weren't happy with the seam in it.
Most people wouldn't notice the seam, but
We did. So that's all I have for you on that.
So I guess the next one's the Route 33 trail design or trail project.
So this project is called the Mac Porter Park Connector Trail Extension. So it's the trail that starts in the park, kind of meanders to the south, and then goes under I-35 down to Jesse Street. And then there has a crosswalk that crosses Route 33 to the senior center. They'll have a connection. And then the sidewalk will continue to the south, and it will go to where the sidewalk begins at the senior living right there. So they'll make that connection.
Ryan's gonna try to pull it up. Is it still on our website where the,
Yeah, if you go to our website, under the news, where the public meeting was. So we held a public meeting on October 3rd. And we had a decent turnout for public meetings. And then we extended that public meeting to go ahead and continue online for a few weeks in case somebody wasn't able to make it. We didn't get any additional questions. So overall, people who came there were very supportive. I thought it might show a picture. There it is. So as you can see, it goes through the park, underneath the interstate, over to Jesse Street, and it crosses. And then it also has like a couple illustrations underneath that picture that kind of shows how it will look. So right now, our contractor's working on the preliminary plans. I'm expecting to get those submitted to me this week, and then they go to our team to review and over to MoDOT. We're going to do that concurrently, that review. We should get an updated construction estimate with preliminary plans. So everything that we list here is based on the application when they put in for the grant. After we get the preliminary plan approval from MoDOT, and we'll start like the right-of-way phase of the project, which requires the environmental work to be completed. So I think all that's kind of coming together to be completed, and then we'll be able to start with some right-of-way acquisition, which we might need some easements to do the work. So other than that, I mean, the project's right on track where it's supposed to be for a TAP project, which is the grant funds came from Mark, and so we're planning on letting it when we're supposed to.
and I think this might be the one.
This is the one that I was thinking of, that we don't actually get the monies until later on, right?
It's
Like-
a reimbursement
Or
program.
reimbursement program.
Yeah.
Do you know when those funds will be available?
Typically, we'll, like, once the contract, because they only, like, the money we get from them is only to cover the construction and construction inspection. And I believe they do either semi-monthly or monthly reimbursements, like after, like we'll approve the contractor's pay request when they do work, and we'll send it to them, and hopefully they'll reimburse us. But I could follow up on that exact process, especially for Sheila. But I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Yeah, my main, with all these projects, my main question is just gonna be timeline wise of when do we project them starting and completing, so, I know, the Lions Park is complete and we've got the July, November timetable. I just didn't know necessarily, I'm assuming this is gonna take quite a bit longer, just as it's probably a bigger project, but I didn't know, in terms of timeline, do we have a timeline yet of?
Well, the federal funds are available in fiscal year '26, federal fiscal year. So that would start October 1st, 2025.
Okay,
And so we couldn't even put the project out to bid probably till January or February, the way how the process works. It just takes a while to get them out to bid. I would hope that we could do the construction in '26, and it would be just from my experience, that should be about 1 year construction,
okay.
so. Any more questions on that one? Right, so I'm going to move on to pathways. So this project was named after the use tax map. You might put that up too, Ryan. So the use tax map for the sidewalks, they just call it pathways. So as we've been working to try to do, like, kind of chip off, the projects identified on that, we just kind of had a strategy on breaking it out in two different, so this is a big change since our last meeting. So at the last meeting, there was discussion on prioritizing the crossings on 19th Street and doing the Lions Park crossing across Route 33. So we decided to go ahead and move forward with the full design on those and go ahead and put those out for bid and pay for them with the use tax money. And also include 4 sidewalk segments, which were the short segments on the use tax map. So that would be the sidewalks on Meadowbrook. There's one on Stonecrest, just like a block here and there. Grove Street, I think it's Grove, and it's pretty far north. And the other one is going into Stone Lake, where it's just like a block here and there of gaps. So I just didn't feel like trying to get a grant for little things was going to benefit us, because when we get the grants, usually it takes a while till that money's available, and we want to still show progress. So this is going to be paid for the use tax. We have the design complete. It just needs to be reviewed by our city engineer, and they need to put the bid documents. And so the goal is to budget in next year's city budget the funds to be able to do the construction. So I've been working with Sheila on that. So that would be on that map. The crossings on 19th Street, I think, are like L on that. And then it's sidewalk segments G, H, and E. So we would get all those completed. So E is kind of on the north, on that North Grove, and then G is going into Stone Lake Drive, and H is Stonecrest Drive.
And then you also mentioned Meadowbrook, but I'm assuming it's probably not up there.
Well, that was in this design, but what happened is the school district had a project at Southview and a contractor, and they wanted to get that done sooner. And so they had their contractor constructed, and then we paid our portion. So the school district paid the majority of that sidewalk that was along their property. And so the part that went off the school property, we used the use tax. It was around $7,000 or so. And so that J is completed.
Oh, okay, yeah, so you're talking about east of the school, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm just, when you go down Meadowbrook, there's actually another piece, like where the trail crosses over Meadowbrook on, I'm trying to think, it would be the south side of the road there. Like the sidewalk starts and then just stops and goes in another, for the longest time, I thought that was the section that they were talking about connecting, but okay, makes sense.
So the next part of, like, the goal is to finish the commitments we made to the voters, which are what's on this map. And so the strategy on that, once we do these, which we're going to put it out for bid and hopefully construct that next year, there will be 3 projects remaining on the use tax map. But those are the big ones, like the more complicated and the more costly. So that would be F, which picks up at Dollar General on Route 33 and continues down to Major Street. And then I, which is from Porter Ridge down to Clear Creek Drive on Route 92. And then C, which is putting a sidewalk on one side of Regency Drive. So when we hired a consultant to do design work for the other project I talked about, I also had them do conceptual engineering, or like real high-level conceptual engineering to figure out what it would cost to do those projects. And put in and write a grant for us for transportation enhancement funds from alternative funds from Mark, which is the same way we got grants for the Route 33 trail. So we put in that grant, and it hasn't been approved by the Mark board, but it's all but approved. We were awarded $1.5 million. So it was, there is still quite about $1 million of gap there that will come out of the use tax. And the funds would be available in this federal fiscal year 27 and 28. So we have time to assemble money to get the design started now. And that's what we're working on the budget, on what it would cost to move forward with the design. And that's our plan next year, to move forward on design and getting somebody under contract to start that design. And we have several years to get it all put together.
So the 2 million in anticipated total construction is for those 3 major projects, is that correct?
There's 2 projects that'll go out to bid, and one is the ones with the small sidewalk segments. And
then the other one is the major ones?
Yes, the
Okay.
major one, which has the $1.5 million of grant money. Now, one thing I'm still considering is, because it's not part of the use tax, but it's also a great thing for Kearney, is we put in for a grant for the 19th Complete Street project, which would not finish, but it would pick up at Watson Drive and Patty, where the interchange job stopped with the curb and gutter and the bike lanes, and it would continue that all the way over to Meadow Lane Street. I always laugh when I say that word, Meadow Lane Street, which is when you're going, it's the street, Ryan, if you could do it, it's the one that goes into White Gate, right? Like if you go east of that. And
Go
it's
east by
Oh,
it's right where that letter C is.
C is.
yeah.
Kind of, yeah, it's like right, it's the road that goes into White Gate before you go over the culvert where the bridge was before.
Okay.
And so that would create a complete street all the way through there, which would include bike lanes on both sides, a trail on one side, and a sidewalk on the other, all the way from where the interchange left off to Meadow Lane, where the curb and gutter is, and the wide shoulders are where the bridge used to be.
But that wouldn't go all the way to the high school?
No, that project doesn't. It was initially supposed to stop at the intersection, but I was able to extend it down to the curb and gutter. Yeah. There's been no studying. And how we were able to move so fast on that is the city had initially got under contract, I believe in like 2018, to start the design to the intersection. And so we were already under contract with the consultant. We just had to tell them they could go ahead and proceed with the work. But we did extend it down because it makes sense to go down and tie into the other curb and gutter.
Oh, is that where the curb and gutter, so it's gonna be all connected then?
Yeah, where the bridge, I don't know if you remember where the bridge was at the bottom of the hill. There's a double box culvert there, and so they'll tie into there. So as part of that job, 2 of the pedestrian crossings along 19th Street are within those limits. One is the trail crossing over by the railroad tracks, and the other is the crossing right at Meadow Lane Street. And so we are considering not doing as much at Meadow Lane Street because we'll just be tearing it all out in a few years if we do, because we're going to be doing that job. So it would just be a waste of construction dollars to do that now and tear it all out. So we're looking at that. But we are going to do the pedestrian buttons or the flashing beacons for the trail crossing now.
Great.
So a question on that would be, because I know when you get up by the new construction where the pool and everything will eventually go, that's all new sidewalk. So are they gonna have to rip that out to build the trail?
No,
To
no.
extend the trail and stuff?
No, the city initially did it half at a time. So the north side where the sidewalk is, that's already constructed. That was recently constructed, so it will be to widen the roadway. And you'll have curb and gutter on the south side of the road, and then the trail will be on the south side of the road. But the sidewalk on the north side of the road stays in place.
Okay.
So it does kind of impact Project L for the 2 crossings. But the crossing for the trail by the pickleball courts, that's outside of the limits of the 19th Complete Street job, so we definitely will make sure that gets done now. So, all right. So next is a lot of information. Is the in the last time we talked, we call it like downtown street plan. We talked about I was going to put in for a grant for a planning study. We also got a grant for that. We've been getting really lucky this year.
Yeah.
But we got the Connected Kearney Plan, which is a planning sustainable places grant. We spent $15,000 up front, and we received $75,000 of grant awards from Mark. And our match is $25,000, and they charge 1% fee, so it's like $25,750. So we're going to select a consultant, hopefully tomorrow on that. And Mark is administrating that project for us, and we're leading, like I'll be the project manager. But the goal on that project is to have a citywide connectivity plan, because this map is a great start. But you just mentioned the gap on Meadowbrook. Like how are our trails supposed to connect? How are our sidewalks? Where are the missing gaps? So it includes part of the scope is to do a sidewalk assessment and inventory for condition and figure out where your gaps are. And then they're supposed to do a citywide connectivity plan. So part of it will be to connect our trails and decide, with these bike lanes, where are we going next with them? Because the goal couldn't have been just to have bike lanes for a mile. What's the plan? In a long-range vision. And that would be kind of a document the city could use for years to come on trying to figure out where to spend money on trails and sidewalk. The major focus of the study, though, will be closer to the downtown area. That is how we were so successful, because we did score the highest in the region, because we did focus on the area where we have the highest senior population and where our lowest income people are. And that's exactly where our crappiest, I hate that word, but terrible, sidewalks are. And we saw that on the walk audit, how bad they were. And so we were able to tell our story and get this grant. And it also includes a component for a downtown master plan too, which would be for the walkability part. So they'll look at Washington and probably really close in the areas around Lions Park and just around here. So we'll be kicking off that study probably really, really soon, because they go pretty quick. So it'll probably be around January or February, we'll kick it off. And be forming a steering committee for that.
But just so I'm clear, the tangible output of this is just plans. There's not actual,
It's a planning study.
yeah.
There are advantages to having a planning sustainable places study, because when you put in a grant at Mark for the TAP funds or for the other funds, like for the roadway, which would be for STPG funds, there is always a question on whether or not your project comes out of a planning sustainable places. And a lot of cities have these, and it's like an additional 5 to 10 points depending on which program. So it will help us in the future to continue to be able to compete for sidewalk jobs and leverage our use tax money. And there will be projects hopefully identified in this. So we'll know, like after this map, what should be our next focus. Maybe it's maintaining what we have or filling in the gaps, or like this missing connections. Or maybe it is a brand new sidewalk to somewhere. But this will be a pretty robust public engagement project, because that's what I've been part of them in other cities, and it's a really good study. Parkville had one for Route 9, from Route 45 all the way down to Park University, and they've been implementing it in phases. And it just helped them score better than everybody else. So it's like strategic sometimes as well. One more grant we received for sidewalks, put in for a safety grant, and we were awarded like $10,000 to purchase equipment for the flashing beacons. And we cannot give the money to a contract. Like, I'm like, well, let's just apply it and then have the contractor and get reimbursed. They said, no, you have to buy them yourself. So we're gonna put those on Meadowbrook, at the trail crossing on Meadowbrook when we purchase them.
Okay.
And that's not on this map, but those crossings were like a priority, and that's the only other trail crossing or unsignalized crosswalk we have in the city that I'm aware of, unless Nate says you're wrong and sends me a list of some more, but I think that's the last one that I'm aware of that's on our system, so.
Sure.
I think I covered everything on my list and the other things that aren't on our list. So, yes, thank you.
Well, I think that wraps up kind of the overview of what we need to cover tonight. I had a couple of comments that I wanted to make, and a couple of questions I wanted to ask to see if it was possible. Before I do that, did any of the other committee members, you guys have any questions, comments, or anything on
Nope, I'm good.
any of these?
Nope.
One thing that, and maybe it's already out there and I'm just not looking in the right places, but is it possible, because we see the map, we can find the map where it shows what projects are still out there to be done. Could we have that same map with maybe like green lines to support like what we have done? So that way, when people go out there and they say, we haven't heard about this in a while, what are we doing? They can actually go and say, this is what the use tax has, we've done this, we've done that. I know we've talked about at the last meeting, taking pictures of Lions Park and stuff like that and Jesse James Park, of the new surface to put out for people on the site. And I mean, I'd be more than happy to, direct people out there to go look at it. Because I know when we first passed the use tax, we had, a whole website dedicated to this is what it is, this is what we're going to do. We had a bunch of conceptual drawings, but people might be refreshed to see some of the, tangible results of it. I know personally I would, and, just seeing some of the pictures of the new sidewalks, and then, kind of like I said, like an overview of what we have completed, that shows kind of on a map, like where we've connected stuff.
As part of our grant application for the pathways, our consultant did update the map for, to show them, like, what we're doing and what we have done, to show that, we're trying. And so there was a couple little errors on it, so I'm gonna ask them to correct those before we would put it out there. But
That's fine. I just think it would be a
If she
good,
was good with that map, then we could use it, and if not, we could have Jamie create something different. But I think we might already have it, like Dario created a map for us. They just have some things mixed up on like how we funded it.
okay. Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't have to be anything pretty. It's just, for me, it's easier to put it into perspective if we were, if I'm able to see visually, from a map perspective or what have you, to see everything that we've done. The other thing is, I know we have a lot of projects where we have basically noted that we've got the grant monies and we know what the projected construction costs are, and we've notated that there's no unfunded amount. But I also know that our last month on the November report here, our fund balance decreased, right? And I'm just wanting to make sure, do we have a control in place that says, we can't go past X amount to, because what I look at is just, Hall Park, we have to have $500,000 available for that to be funded. But then, I'm trying to think, the Route 33 Trail Design Project, it also says that the, current unfunded amount is 0, but I'm just wanting to make sure we have all that money available, because if we have to have $500K to go tomorrow for Hall Park, then do we really have the funds available for the other projects?
We've already done a transfer to the project fund, so that money
Can't
was
be.
already taken out of the use tax.
Oh,
and
so the
transferred.
500,000 for Hall Park is not actually in the 685?
Correct.
You're saying that it's
We
already over?
transferred the $500,000 match already. Now, there's always the chance that when we go out for bid, after Vireo gets the advertisement and everything ready, that the bid will come in higher than what we anticipated. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but it also could come in lower. And then we've already transferred that $500,000 over, but what happens if the construction was only $800,000? And so the grant would pay for $400,000 and we would pay for $400,000, and then we'd have $100,000. But that money right now is sitting in that construction fund for both the Route 33 Trail Project and for Hall Park, because we've been working towards that for the last couple of years.
Yeah. And then, so say it does come in lower and we, save 100,000, would that be transferred back into the use tax fund to turn around and use on
Yes.
subsequent projects?
Or if you had another project, if it's a park project and it stayed in the park project fund, you could use it for one of those other projects if the board appropriated the funds for it. If it was a sidewalk project or a trail project, that's where the bulk of our use tax money funding is going right now. But yes, let's say we ran out of projects or we needed to move it back to use tax so that we could put it in the park, move it to a park. But, so it will never go from one project fund to another project fund. If it changed purposes, it would have to go back to the use tax fund first and then be appropriated that way.
I wanted to answer your question on the photos. I know we posted those to the city Facebook page, the park Facebook page, and our amphitheater Facebook page on the surfacing, but maybe we can get that where it's on the actual city site, where people go to see use tax, and we can show, like you were talking, projects that are ongoing, projects that have finished, and your use tax money at work, and show them that way as well. But we had a lot of nice comments about the surfacing, and it worked out really well because the Oktoberfest event was held immediately following the completion of the project. But we'll work on that and get them out there even more so people know what the use tax money has been going for, projects that are ongoing or projects that have been completed.
Okay. Well, I think that answers everything I had. And with that, I think the last thing that we have on the agenda is just to set the next meeting, which I see Sheila's proposed Thursday, March 6th at 6. Do you guys have any objections to that?
Works for me.
Looks good.
Well, unless something comes up later on, then I would say that that's what we'll put on the calendar, and I will see you guys then.
Okay, thank you so much.
Meeting adjourned.